Bart. You got him?
Let's see. I got it right here.
Okay.
Oh, here you go, Sergeant. Jack Morris and Pete Garfield.
Jack Morris and Pete Garfield were brought in for questioning. We double-checked with Homicide and found that their reports on Morris and Garfield tallied with ours. No previous records. Both men had been tailed for a reasonable length of time since their testimony at the Laval inquest. Their actions failed to implicate them. 4 days after the second hijacking, we got a tip from one of our informants down in the warehouse district. He told us that a man in a gray suit had been hanging around the coffee shop next to the Teamsters Union Hall. He was peddling nylon stockings, cheap. There had been other reports like this, which we had followed up, but none of them had paid off. Usually such leads didn't pay off, but we couldn't be sure. They had to be checked. At a few minutes before 5 that afternoon, we found the nylon salesman in the gray suit in the back booth of the coffee shop adjoining the Union Hall.
Look, Meg. Take a look. The finest. You can't do better. 51 gauge nylon. Look good, huh?
Sure do, don't they, Joe?
Yeah, they do. We've been looking for you, Mac. Some of the guys in the Union Hall said that you'd be around.
Sure, I saw lots of these around the hall. Truck drivers, just like you, buying them like crazy. Good deal.
Sure looks like it, Mac. How many pair can we have?
Many as you want. 4 bits a pair, you name it.
You got a couple of dozen for us?
Couple of dozen? No, not on me, but I can get them. Many as you want.
Well, we're kind of in a hurry. Can you get them for us fast?
Couple of dozen.
Better make it 3 dozen, huh, Joe?
Yeah, if you want. 3 dozen. Can you get them now?
Couple of hours I can get them. Same quality. Want to meet me here?
Oh, I don't know. We wanted them for tonight. My wife's birthday, you know.
Well, maybe an hour and a half. How's that? 3 dozen, meet you here.
Oh, look, Mac, maybe we're both heading the same direction. Can't we go with you and pick up the nylon? Save time for all of us.
No, I don't think so. No. Can't you wait? Hour and a half? How's that? Ever find a better buy?
I'm sorry, Mac. I wish we had the time. Well, where do you have to go to pick up these nylons?
Oh, way out. Sunset Boulevard near Fairfax. Can't you wait? I'll make it fast.
Well, can't we pay you and then go out and pick them up ourselves?
Huh? No. Don't work that way. No. Can't you wait here? I'll make it fast.
Well, we ought to be home now, Joe. Yeah, I'm sorry, mister. We'll have to skip it.
Yeah, maybe we can pick up something on the way home, Ben. Candy or something. Wife likes candy.
Now, look, fellas, I don't want to see you lose out on this deal. I'll meet you halfway.
How you mean?
Look, together we'll go out to Sunset and Fairfax, huh? Near the place. You wait there at the hamburger stand, and in 5 minutes I'll bring you the stuff, okay?
Oh, I don't know. We're late already, but... All right, it's a deal. I'll call the wife and tell her we're going to be a little later. 3 dozen, is that right?
3 dozen of the best. You can't do better.
All right, I'll be back in just a minute.
.253.
2523.
Chief of Detectives Office, Chandler.
Mike, Joe Friday, Backstrand there?
Out right now, Joe.
Well, then do me a favor, Chandler. Make it fast. Get a couple of men out to Sunset and Fairfax as fast as you can. Tell them to watch for Ben and me. You got that?
Yeah, what else?
We'll drive up in our car with another man. Ben and I will get out of the car and go in the hamburger stand. The other man will walk off. Whoever you get, tell him to follow that man. You got it?
Right.
All right. Just tail him. See where he goes, see what he does.
Okay, Joe, right away.
All set, Joe? She got dinner ready?
Yeah, just about. We better hustle.
Sure. Best deal in the world. Let's go.
At 5 minutes to 6, we pulled up at the corner of Sunset Boulevard and Fairfax. It was almost dark. Ben and I got out of the car and started over for the hamburger stand on the corner. We caught a glimpse of Barcy and Kaplan in one of our detective cars parked in a gas station on the opposite corner. They had their eyes on our man. When the traffic signals changed, the man crossed the street and headed down Fairfax. Barcy and Kaplan waited a minute, and then they took off after him. He turned at the next corner and disappeared from sight. Ben and I ordered a cup of coffee, and we sat down to wait. At 6:30, we were still waiting. At 5 minutes to 7, I went across the street to the drugstore and called the office. Barcy and Kaplan hadn't been heard from. Their car, 105K, was not acknowledging calls. I had my call switched from communications to Backstrand's office.
Well, they lost him, Friday. I don't know how they lost him, but they lost him.
Well, who's out there now?
Sullivan and Whitney took a detail out there. They're combing the neighborhood right now.
Well, how did it happen? A man just doesn't disappear into thin air.
That's what I keep telling you about that stuff that's been hijacked.
The search for the nylon salesman went on all that night and most of the next day. From his description, we ran a make on him. No previous record. He had disappeared completely. We were right back where we'd started from. The only thing we could do was to start backtracking, re-questioning the people at General Warehouse, the truck drivers, the shipping clerks. We kept a close check on Garfield and Morris, and we went back to the only possible lead still remaining, Mrs. Laval. She could tell us nothing more than we already knew. When we left her, we started on the neighbors for the second time around. For the rest of the day, we canvassed the immediate neighborhood. We got as many opinions of the Lavals as they had neighbors. At 3:30 that afternoon, we visited with Miss Gertrude Langster, a 50-year-old maiden lady who lived almost directly across the street from the Laval house. She'd been out of town the first time we covered the neighborhood.
The old saying goes, Sergeant, there's no fool like an old fool. Oh, say, if I told you the chances I had when I was a girl.
Yeah, but we just...
not truck drivers like that. Laval man, God rest his soul. But fine, wealthy men, bankers, lawyers. Templeton Grant, you remember him?
No, ma'am.
I was engaged to him once. Butterfly waist, that's what he used to call me.
Well,
I was slim in those days. Would you like to see some pictures of me as a girl?
No, thank you, ma'am. We'd just like to ask you a few questions, that's all.
Could you tell us if the Lavals had many visitors to their house in the past 6 months or so?
Oh, my, no. Funny thing, I am the nosy type, Sergeant. I like to know everything that goes on around my neighborhood, and you can take my word for it, the Lavals never had visitors. You know, Sergeant Friday, you remind me of a young man I used to be engaged to just a few years ago.
Yes, Miss Langston.
Now, would you tell us, please, did you have any reason to think that there was something a little out of the ordinary about the Laval?
Oh, little out of the ordinary, he says. But my dear man, yes. Here he was, a truck driver, and there she was with a home furnished like the Astors. Well, I even used to see him cart some of the things home in that car. His beautiful things, rugs and glassware, bolts of fabric. Oh, gorgeous.
And he'd bring these things home after work. Is that it, Miss Langston?
Anytime. Day or night, weekends, anytime.
Mm-hmm.
After 4, Joe, we better call office.
Yeah. Now, are you sure of all that you've told us, Miss Langster?
Sure. Oh, my dear man, of course I'm sure. I watched him week after week.
Well, thank you.
Won't you stay for a cup of tea? I'll have Josephine fix it. Josephine?
No, thank you, ma'am.
Well, then, perhaps a glass of sherry?
Thank you, no. But there is something.
Yes?
I wonder if we could use your phone, please.
Oh, yes. In the hall, next to the umbrella stand.
Thank you, ma'am.
City Hall.
2523.
2523.
Thanks, Trent.
Friday, Ed. Nothing much here.
Well, there's something here. Barcy and Kaplan just called. Pete Garfield left his house half an hour ago. Then he picked up Morris.
What's so unusual about that?
Nothing, except the guy driving the car is the little man in the gray suit, the nylon salesman. Barcy and Kaplan are tailing him.
Where are they now?
Headed north out Riverside Drive.
Well, there's nothing out there but a golf course and a lot of riding stables.
I don't care what they do for recreation. Go get them.
With red light and siren, it took us 12 minutes to pick up Barcy and Kaplan on Riverside Drive. At 4:23 p.m., we pulled up in front of the Blue Pony riding stables. Barcy and Kaplan's car was overturned just beyond the driveway leading up to the riding academy.
Kaplan's hurt. I called an ambulance. They rammed us.
What kind of a car are they in?
They switched. They're driving a 12-ton Bulldog semi.
Which way they head?
Going north. Got a 3-minute lead on you. Pneumatic commercial. Adam 653.
Let's go, Ben.
Can you see him, Joe?
No, not yet. Watch that crossing.
Up ahead, Joe. That's a semi. Can you read it?
Wait a minute. Adam 653. That's them.
Took a right on Lancashire.
Don't lose them.
They're pushing that semi too hard.
Look at that trailer sway.
They'll have to stay on Lancashire. They're going too fast to turn now.
Traffic's closing in up ahead of them.
They better not turn.
That's what they're doing.
Look at that trailer whip. They're going over.
Into that storefront. Come on, Ben.
You all right?
Wait a minute. Let me see. Yeah, they're banged up, but they're alive.
There they are, Joe.
Yeah.
Garfield, Morris, little man in a gray suit.
It's funny, isn't it?
What's that?
Garfield's going to swear we pushed that truck through that window.
The story you have just heard is true. Only the names were changed to protect the innocent.
Peter Garfield, Jack Morris, and John Dolfo, the stocking salesman, were hospitalized and later brought to trial. They were convicted on charges of grand theft and received sentences as prescribed by law. They are now serving their terms in the state penitentiary. You have just heard the 18th in a new series of authentic cases from official files. Technical advice for Dragnet comes from the Office of Acting Chief of Police W.A. Wharton, Los Angeles Police Department.
Tonight's program is dedicated to motorcycle officer Elmer Forsman of the Fresno, California Police Department, who on the afternoon of October 6, 1946, gave his life so that yours might be more secure.
Remember, starting next Thursday night, October 6th, Fatima Cigarettes invite you to listen to Dragnet immediately following the Supper Club. That's 10:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time over most of these same NBC stations. Check your newspaper for local release time. Dragnet came to you from Los Angeles.
Judy Canova joins the star lineup of Saturday shows tonight on NBC.
From 75 years ago, Saturday, October 1st, 1949, Dragnet here on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox. We'll have the news from that Saturday, 75 years ago, in a moment.
Civil defense is common sense. Hi, this is Tony Bennett. Make sure you're prepared if a nuclear attack ever comes.
Now on Classic Radio Theater with Wyatt Cox, a look at the news from Saturday, October 1st, 1949, 75 years ago. The steel strike started last night at midnight. President Philip Murray of the CIO United Steelworkers called 528,000 of his unionists off the jobs in 53 basic steel plants and several other concerns across the country. Mill shutdowns and walkouts of workers started hours earlier. Picket lines set up. The White House said President Truman would take no further steps in the dispute. 150,000 at 150,000 at U.S. Steel, other basic steel companies, 223,000, and nearly 50 iron ore mining companies employing 12,000 in Minnesota, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Missouri. The CIO United Rubber Workers and B.F. Goodrich Company at Dayton, Ohio, settled a 34-day strike of 16,000 workers yesterday. The rubber workers received no pay boost but got a 10-cent insurance welfare package. The insurance retirement program will be financed by the company and its workers. President Truman returned to Washington from a trip to St. Louis and Kansas City yesterday afternoon. In other news of the day, the Senate voted yesterday to add $171 million to the pay of about 1.3 million federal workers. It voted a $61 million raise for 500,000 postal employees, then added another $11 million for the 885,000 civil service toilers. The House has approved similar increases, but with different totals. The government finished the first quarter of the new fiscal year yesterday about $1.4 billion in the red, and with prospects strong for going deeper into the hole. Guesses on the budget deficit by the end of fiscal 1950, next June 30th, range from $2 billion, by an administration expert, to $7 billion by Senator Byrd, the Democrat of Virginia. It had to be guesswork because the final outcome will depend in large part on what Congress does about a lot of appropriation bills, which are 3 months late and awaiting action. Ending a year-old investigation, the House Un-American Activities Committee yesterday named a young Midwestern University professor as the shadowy scientist X it accused of slipping wartime atomic secrets to a man it called a communist spy. The committee said that Scientist X is Dr. Joseph Weinberg of the University of Minnesota and formally recommended that the Justice Department prosecute him on perjury charges. Weinberg promptly denying the accusation, claiming it was a case of mistaken identity. A 42-year-old Capital cabbie bet some of his own money yesterday that Cornelius Leroy knew what he was doing when he scattered $100 bills around like autumn leaves. John Joseph Brennan Jr. hired 2 attorneys and filed a legal claim with district police for some $7,800. That's the amount that they took from him Thursday when the 39-year-old Leroy was sent to a hospital in Washington for mental observation. The lawyers, Charles Ford and T.M. McKenzie, both recognized as top experts in their trade, said they aren't trying to reclaim the money now. They merely want to establish their clients' rights if the former auto worker is judged sane. Now, Leroy created somewhat